What's up, everybody? My name is Michael Redhead Champagne, and it is my pleasure and honor to be hanging out with you today. But I think it's funny that I'm hanging out with you today, because here we are at TEDxUniversity of Winnipeg, in the University of Winnipeg, on Treaty 1 territory, and I'm here to talk to you about my favorite thing. And my favorite thing has a lot to do with what this place isn't. It has a lot to do with my experiences that I've had in my life outside of traditional classrooms. My talk today is about street education and about the lessons that we can learn if we're brave enough to journey outside of the classroom. Street education, to me, as I understand it and as I love it, is the lessons, helpers, and environments that exist in our day-to-day lives, where there are teachers, there are students, and a whole bunch of blurry lines. Because in traditional education, class starts at a certain moment, and it ends at a certain moment. Before I, as a learner, walk into that classroom, the curriculum is set. Now, the time frame, the curriculum being set, and the overall environment, I have learned something about my relationship with education overall. I don't really like it. And I don't really like it because I feel like it's super controlled. And I have a history with education, and so do many people on Treaty 1 territory. My mother went to Indian residential schools, and education for myself and many other Indigenous people in this country, well, that's a big, tall order, education. And it comes with a lot of baggage. Now, in 2016, we are in what many refer to as an era of reconciliation. It's a nice word, an important word. But I think words, as I've learned in both the classroom and the street, are powerful. And how we choose to use them or not use them tell us a lot about who we are. And so I struggled when I began to engage in post-secondary education. I struggled because at the same time that I was engaging in post-secondary education, I was learning about my own history. I was learning about my mother's experience, and I was learning about how come, like 14,000 other children in Manitoba, I was a product of the child welfare system. Intergenerational effects of Indian residential schools continue to plague our Indigenous community. And I think that's why I wanted to talk about street education here today. Because I didn't want to come here and trash universities or real places of learning or school classrooms. I came here to tell you about my favorite classroom, about a place where I learn, a place where I feel safe, a place where I can laugh, a place where I can ask questions, and a place where I am both student and teacher at the same time. My favorite classroom is on the corner of Selkirk and Powers, Friday nights at 6 o'clock. It's called Meet Me at the Bell Tower. And it's an initiative that began in November of 2011 as a youth-led response to the violence that was happening in and around our community. Indigenous youth leaders came together and said enough. No longer will we have family reunions in the funeral home. No longer will our class be getting together after the learning is done at the hospital. And no more am I going to reconnect with the people who are important to me at a place like a vigil. This was our reality in November of 2011. And we didn't like it, not one bit. So we did something about it. Because we looked into our classrooms and we saw a bunch of education that was happening and questions that were being asked, important ones. But it was very, contained. It was very contained. Between these walls of the classroom, what are we going to discuss? Great ideas are fostered inside of places where learning is encouraged. Great concepts. Ideas and dreams that potentially have the power to make our world a much better place, make our families a little bit stronger, allow people to articulate their visions a little bit more clearly. And so once that's done, well, naturally I put it onto 30 pieces of paper, hand it to a teacher, and then that's the end of it. And I think it's that experience that I had in traditional classrooms that made me long for the street corner. And I longed for it before I even knew what it was. It is street education. I am a street educator, and everyone who shows up on Friday night to stop the violence with us and build community are both student and teacher. In my favorite classroom, it's intergenerational, which means there are little ones, people my age, elders, and people older than me, all learning the same subject, all listening to the same speaker, all asking the question, how does this affect me in my life, and what can I do to apply this information in my day-to-day? And I think it's in that application that street education gave me what I was longing for. We don't talk about things. I remember, let me tell you a story about when I learned about algebra. Once upon a time, I think I was in grade 5 or 6, I learned about this thing in mathematics called algebra. It was very complicated. There was even an X in it. And I remember asking the teacher, why do I need to know algebra? And you know what they said? Because. And that answer is much too common in the halls of our education systems. Why do I need to learn this? That's the number one question that we aim to answer in my favorite classroom. Do you know why you need to learn this? You might save a life someday. You need to learn this because you need to apply it in your life. You need to learn this because the other members of our community need to see your light shining brightly. They need to see you sharing your gift freely. They need to see you asking those questions courageously. And when they do, you get to light the rest of the people in your community who observe your example on fire. And we create heat and sustenance from people's cold experiences that they have, often in elementary, high school, and even sometimes in post-secondary. The coldness of the classroom, feeling like the person instructing doesn't know whether I'm here or not. Classrooms and places of learning where I'm not allowed to teach anything that I know, where I'm not allowed to challenge the instructor on their expertise. But at Meet Me at the Bell Tower, we are all experts. We are all experts in our own life experience. And more so than being experts in experiences, we're all teachers. We are all teachers. And to me, street education is the learning that happens after 3:30, when the school doors shut down, when tuitions are paid, when diplomas are put away. Street education is what I can apply in my life right now. And I challenge all of you to find the street educators in your community, like me, who are committed not to replacing traditional education, but who are passionate about supplementing it. Because I know that I need that teacher who sits there 9 to 3:30 with 30 of the amazing young lives in our community. She does an amazing and important service for those young people and for our community. But after 3:30, when that kid's running around in the neighborhood and I happen to see them on a Friday night on the street corner, guess what I get to do? Ask them some questions about what they learned in school. And I think it's fun, because sometimes they'll tell me, well, we learned about this thing called algebra. And I always say, you want to know how you can apply that to your life? And it's interesting, because you can use algebra just thinking about the work that we've done with Meet Me at the Bell Tower. Because we've met for 4 years. That's 52 Fridays times 4. Throw that into an equation. Maybe it'll look like TEDx, I don't know. But at the end of it, regardless of the number, your outcome is this: a community that is stronger, more connected, more aware, more system literate, and more educated on topics than any community that I have ever seen in my life. The north end of Winnipeg is home to the most innovative classroom that I have ever experienced in my nearly 3 whole decades of living. And it's innovative because of its gentleness and because of its hardness. It's gentle because people are allowed to ask a question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. But it's hard because we ask difficult questions like, what do I do to address this topic? It addresses challenging questions because it's about being careful with our own words. So at Meet Me at the Bell Tower, guess what? People bring to us a lot of the time. They bring us issues. They say, hey, what are you guys going to do about this issue? Now let me tell you, I got an issue with the word issue. Because when you focus only on a problem, over and over and over, all you are going to be resulted with at the end is more of that problem. And so we don't talk about issues at Meet Me at the Bell Tower. We talk about topics. Because within a topic, you have an issue and a solution. Actually, and most importantly, you have action. And within the action, we have our application. Our application are our daily lives. And we encourage community members to listen to the hardships that are shared at Meet Me at the Bell Tower and ask themselves the question, what can I do to make things better? What can I do to shine my light a little brighter? What can I do to share my gift with the world? And when we do that, ripple effects can happen. Just this year, a cousin Bell Tower gathering sprung up in the south end of Winnipeg on Monday nights. So that there's another innovative classroom for the other half of our city to go hang out with once a week. Meet Me at the Bell Tower and street education are something that I feel very privileged and honored to have been a part of over the last number of years. But I'm here today because I don't want to keep it for myself. Because these intergenerational, voluntary, teacher-student fluid, places where fun can happen, these environments, these intergenerational classrooms, they can happen in your community too. They can happen if members of your community only have the courage to get together on a regular basis before the bad thing happens. Before our young people start dropping like flies, before we start having to have reunions in funeral homes. We don't have to wait for the suicide crises, the homicides, the floodings in our reserves, the fires in our home communities, the lack of services. You are not helpless. And if only you and your community members would have the courage to acknowledge your own capacity as street educators, as people who can supplement the important work that happens in traditional halls of learning, then I feel like our communities and our children will be the stronger for it. And I feel like maybe even for somebody like me, the son of an Indian residential school survivor, if only we can continue to ask these tough questions and talk about issues, solutions, and actions, maybe someday these spaces can be safe for me too. But we got to do it together. So let's hit the streets and get educating. Thank you.